Hello class and welcome again to another lesson of JavaScript loops. In our previous lesson we've looked at the concept of while loop. We have seen a symbol syntax for creating the while loop. We have also seen a symbol syntax to create the for loop. And we have created the two loops right within our code here. So the first loop we created was the for loop to print numbers from 1 to 100. The second loop was the for loop to print out the elements of this array. Now we are going to create another loop, which is the do while loop. So the third type of the loop in JavaScript is the do while loop. The do while loop, it executes the code block once first before checking the condition. So the other two loops normally checks the condition first before executing the block of code. But the do while loop executes the code block once first before checking the condition. So we use the keyword do and then the code block to be executed and then the condition using the while keyword. So without further ado, let us get started and see how we can create a simple do while loop. So I'm going over to my Visual Studio and now I'm going to initialize a variable. We already have a variable initialized x right here. And now x is initialized to 0. And now I'm going to use the do while. We use the keyword do and then we write the code block that should be executed. So I'm going to simply log console dot log x, and then after that below the do while, below the do, I'm going to write now the while condition, and within the while condition is where I'm going to put my condition that should be evaluated. So the condition is x less than or equals to 10. And also within the do while block, I'm going to add another statement x plus plus. So when I run this code, it will first check initialize x to 0. So let me comment out the while loop. Let me also comment out the for loop. And now we only have the do while loop. So I'm going to bring this x right down here so that you can be seen easily together. Now we have variable x initialized to 0. This block of code will first log x. It will first log 0 and increment 0 by 1. Then it will check the condition to see if x is less than 10. If the condition is true, it will come back to execute this and go back again to check the condition. If the condition is true, it will again come back to execute this and go back to check the condition. So it will continue looping or continue repeating itself until the condition is false. So when the condition is false, this block of code will stop executing. But before it checks the condition, it at least executes this code block once. So now when we run this program, so I'm going to save this and then now I'm going to run the code. So you can see it prints the values from 0 to 10 because our condition is that x must be less or equals to 10. But now assuming the value of x here is 11. So now the condition is false. But even if the condition is false, this code is going to be executed once before even checking the condition. So the first thing when we save these changes, and let me run the code again, it prints 11 once and then it stops there. Why? Is because it will initialize x to 1 to 11 and then it will first execute this statement. So console.log, it will log x, which is now 11, and then it will increase x by 1, which is now 12. X now becomes 12, and then now it checks the condition. By the time it checks the condition here, x is already 12, and 12 is not less than 10, so it is actually greater than 10. So even if we put the value 10 here and run the program again, it will only log 10 once, and then after printing the value 10, it increases the value of x by 1. Now the value of x becomes 11, and then after that it checks the condition. So the condition is false because 11 is not less than 10. So since the condition is false, the loop will stop executing and it will not even go back to do these statements again. So that is the only difference between the do-while loop and the while loop, in the sense that the do-while loop first executes the code block once before it checks the condition, but the while loop and the for loop first checks the condition before executing the code. So if you have a scenario where you have to at least execute the code block once before looping, then the suitable type of the loop you're going to use is the do while loop. Otherwise, that's all about this particular lesson, and in our next lesson we shall look at the concept of the JavaScript conditional statements. But as part of your practices, you can use the for loop and create a program that prints the numbers between, not just the numbers, but the odd numbers between 100, between 1 and 100, only the odd numbers. Or even you can as well write another one to also check the even numbers and print them. So that's all about this lesson, and thank you for joining. See you in our next lesson.